Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Chance, and it's time to talk about some board games. Now, it's been a while because work has been a bit crazy, so video production has slowed big time. But look, there's some Kickstarters for some expansions for some really good board games, and I wanted to talk about them. Today, I'll be reviewing Fractured Sky by Ivy Studios. They just launched their Kickstarter for the Awakening expansion, and I'll give my thoughts on what I think of that at the end of the review. So let's get this thing started. First things first, if you've seen my top 100 series, you'll know that Fractured Sky just missed the top 10, and it came in at number 11. I've played Fractured Sky about 5 times now, mostly at 5 players and a couple at 3 players. Overall, I really enjoy this game. Also, I do have the deluxe edition, which I think makes a difference because of the freaking awesome magnetic airships. I also picked this game up at a game swap, so I basically traded a bunch of small games for one stupid expensive game. I think that's important to call out because my opinion may have been different if I had to spend $180 of cold hard cash for this game. I do really like this game, but at that price point, it's hard to recommend. We'll get back to that at the end of this review. Also, I'm frankly pretty excited about this new modular expansion, although I have some serious concerns about one of those modules. But before we get into that, what is this game? So, Fractured Sky is a game for 1 to 5 players, although I admit to not seeing the point of playing this with 1 or 2 players because it's an area majority bluffing game. So definitely going to be better with at least 3 players. One of the things that I love about this game is that the rules are a breeze to teach. It's pretty standard stuff. You know, a star has shattered as they do, and the shards of the star have fallen to the planet. This has angered the cosmic octopus and has caused a bit of chaos. So there's a competition for everyone to collect the most starfall, because the starfall has to be returned to the cosmic octopus to get it to stop causing chaos. Very run-of-the-mill, standard science-y stuff. Now, the game is played over 5 rounds, and each round there will be some new starfall up for grabs. First, a public starfall is revealed and placed on the board in the matching zone. Then a number of hidden starfalls equal to the round number are placed face down. These starfall can be scouted by the players but won't be revealed until the end of the round. Finally, each round also has an objective. These objectives are placed face down at the beginning of the game, and at the end of each round, one is revealed. Whoever achieves that objective wins a starfall. This all means that there's going to be an escalating number of starfall available as the game goes on. In round 1, there's only 3. 1 public, 1 private, and 1 objective. Then by round 5, there's 7. 1 public, 5 private, and 1 objective. Now that we have the stage set for the available victory points, I mean Starfall, right? How do the players actually earn these things? Well, besides the objective, players will generally get Starfall by having the most power in a region, and that this is core to the game. Each player has 3 airships, and these airships will be deployed to try and win regions. Well, most of the time. Sometimes losing is better, it kind of depends. Now, if you have the deluxe version, these airships are these incredible sculpts with a magnetic base. To deploy an airship, you'll just attach a powered disc to the bottom and place it on a region on the map. The only rule on the power is that the sum of your total power for all 3 of your airships must be equal to or less than 10. There's a pretty severe penalty for going over, so that means you could do a 1, 2, and a 7, a 2, 8, and a 0, or 5, 3, and a 2. I think you get the point. You have to know some basic addition. Now with the retail edition, you're just going to have the cardboard chits. Seems functional, but way less enjoyable. So from here, things are pretty easy. The round ends once all players have deployed all 3 of the airships. Then you just have to compare the total power in each region and divvy up the rewards. If the region has a starfall, the winner gets that. If not, they get the resources. Then the next player gets 1 resource. We'll get back to those resources, but let's stay focused on the airship power for now because this is where one of my favorite parts of the game comes in. Bluffing. Ivy Studios did something that I think was really smart with the power limit of 10. Players have 3 ships and have to follow that limit. So while breaking this does have consequences, this could actually be part of the bluffing strategy itself. But the real bluffing comes in with the 1 power and the 10 power disc. These ones have a different colored border than the rest. The border is visible to all players when you put it out there, so when everyone sees you place an airship with that white bordered disc, they know you either played your most powerful airship or one of your weakest. Note that you do have 2 0 airships for when you do use that 10 disc. I absolutely love this. I have looked through some other reviews of this game, and some people don't find this to be enough to lead to good bluffing strategies. But it's worked great for me. This is especially true when you play with some of the same people over and over. Then some of those player interactions carry over between games. I had one player come to the conclusion that I always play my 10 disc when I put out a white bordered disc, and in one game, managed to convince him to avoid an area that would have given him the win by bluffing with my 1 power airship. It was amazing, and those are the moments that I love in this game. Okay, so let's get back to those resources, because these are needed to discuss the other actions in the game. On a player's turn, they have 4 actions to choose from. We've already discussed placing an airship. There's also the peek and scout actions. Basically pay some resources and look at one of the face down cards. Peeking allows you to look at any objective card. This can be great if, say it's round 1 and maybe you peek at round 3 objective so you can prepare for it. Then the scouting allows you to look at a private starfall for the round. This way, you figure out where a starfall will be. This is another part of the game that I love because other players will see that you scouted. And that next ship you place, people will be trying to decide if you're going for that starfall or if you're trying to bluff and misdirect them. Then when you scout, you also have the option to claim 1 resource shown on the scouted card. You then mark the resource you took, which is matched to the resources available in the scouted region. And this is just brilliant because each region has 2 sources available and there's only 3 resource types. So when someone scouts and if they decide to take a resource, they are also declaring that the starfall is in a region with the resource type that they just took. They basically eliminate 50% of the regions for that specific card. Then if someone else scouts the same card and takes the other resource, now you basically just told the rest of the table where the starfall is and we're about to have some competition. This is another opportunity for bluffing though. The player doesn't have to take a resource, and what makes this game great is, or makes this part of the game great, is that if one player has already taken a resource, the next could choose not to. But this could also mean that the region is one with duplicate resources, because it could be that the player that scouted actually didn't have a choice to take one. Okay, so lastly, what do you do with these resources? We got the build action. So I find that there's 2 main strategies in this game, and it seems that most people prefer the standard build your engine for the end game. Makes sense when playing with gamers, right? If you have the resources, you basically can build 3 different things: markets, towers, and skimmers. The markets and towers are going to be permanent changes to the map and will benefit you at the end of each round. Markets allow you to gather extra resources or just and you just have to be present in the region that the market is connected to. This is for the Eurogamer, of course. Then the tower adds 1 strength to each region that it is connected to as long as you have an airship in the region. What's amazing about these 2 options is that there's a limited number of building spaces and these spaces will connect to different numbers of regions. So the more central building spaces that connect to 4 regions will be heavily contested. This is just another brilliant player interaction designed by IB Studios. Lastly is the skimmers. These are simply just +1 power to a region, but I love these freaking skimmers. They don't interact with the markets of the towers, so they're pretty weak, but they can head off on their own. You could bluff with your big airships, and then on a later turn, just send a skimmer off to a region that everyone has ignored, but has a starfall, and just go and capture it. I love it. Now, I do want to call out that I don't find there's any one strategy to this game. Sure, it seems like building out the infrastructure is the way to go, but I've done great just completely ignoring resources and trying to lock in early starfall wins. Sure, I would struggle to compete in the later rounds, but if I could get myself in a position where I just needed to protect my lead, maybe with a good placement of my 10 power token, then I could lock in a win. Which, yes, is an example of a real game. Except for the part about using the 10. That's what my opponents expected of me. So I bluffed my 1, sent out my 9 to capture an area they didn't think I cared about. So, now that we've talked about the resources, we've got to discuss one of the main reasons for spending them. At least, in my opinion. Sure, you're building up your infrastructure. You're getting towers and markets out. You're sending skimmers to collect resources or maybe boost an airship. But really what you're doing is delaying the end of the round. Remember that round ends once all players have placed all 3 of their airships. And actually, a player's out of the round once they've placed their 3rd airship. Which means there aren't equal turns in a round. So if you got the resources, you could just delay by spending them and wait for everyone else to make their decisions. Finally, you're ready to deploy and you see the lay of the land. You know where people are competing and now you just have to put out your airships. But damn, now you've got some thinking to do. Is your 7 going to be powerful enough to win that area against the 2 other players? Or do you need to put out your 8? Maybe your 10? You really need that region. There's 2 starfall there, but let's say you're not that person with all those resources and you can't delay. Well, don't worry. There's also an advantage for placing all 3 of your airships early. Once you place that 3rd airship, you get to decide where you will go in turn order for the next round. But This decision will also determine how ties are broken at the end of the current round, and this is huge. Because of the restriction on the maximum power of 10, that means we're not playing with a large set of numbers. Ties are super common, and being in that tiebreaker position can be critical. Or maybe you don't want to win the regions this round, but you want the bonus money available later in the turn order. This is just another great decision that IB Studios put in the game. So, lastly, those resources are incredibly attractive in the early game. You look at the possibilities of what you can build and realize the resources can be hard to get. You may invest in being able to improve resource collection with those markets. Then in turn 5, you may end up with a glut of resources only to have nothing great to spend them on. All the market and tower locations have been built on, all the objectives are almost gone, and now you're just going to be sending out skimmers and scouting private starfalls. I also just love the fact that round 5 just ends with resources having no value at all. In round 5, everyone has to be focused on those starfall. The game does a great job of building to this kind of climactic conclusion. So there's a lot I love about this game. We've got the 1 in 10 bluffing power tokens with their special colored borders. We've got the slight deduction puzzle with those hidden starfalls. There's the mini Euro resource game of trying to build up your infrastructure. Then the pacing of placing your airships and trying to decide if you should stay in the round or to continue building or end the round and select your place in the turn order track. For me, these things all work together to create a fun, engaging, and easy to teach game that I love getting to the table. Well, now the fun part is over. It's time for some complaints. While I've enjoyed every play of Fractured Sky, it's not perfect. Let's start with a complaint that IB Studios doesn't really have control of, and that's who you play with. Analysis paralysis. AP. Look, I think a player with AP can bring down almost any game, but some are just worse than others. A complex Euro game where everyone has taken a long time on their turn, I feel like it's not as bad. But a game where most people are taking like 15 to 30 seconds on their turn, then the AP player is taking like 3 to 5 minutes, that is excruciating. So playing with Fractured Sky with someone that falls into that latter category is not fun. The game has a simple rule set, but hefty consequences for your decisions. And also the numbers are small, so you can run through all possible permutations of the game state. You look at the board and say, well, if this airship is a 5, then this other airship is probably a 3, then that makes this last one a 2. But if they played their 7, then this airship could be a 3, and that last one's a 0, and so on and on. This means that not only does Fractured Sky drag with someone that has AP, it's also just a game that's prone to AP. It's easy to look at the board and say to yourself, there's a solution here, I can figure it out, I can win. So, quick sidebar on this note. I played this game, so like I said, twice at 3 players, 3 times at 5 players. I think the game is great at 3 and takes less than an hour. And that's perfect for me. I would probably enjoy this at 4 players as well. I just haven't had that player count yet for some reason. At 5 players, I've still really enjoyed this game, but it was definitely pushing that 2+ hour time every time. So, each game that I played at 5 players had one person with significant AP. And as I've already mentioned, I still rate this game very highly, and I've had a great time with every play, but man, this game can drag with the wrong people. Okay, so on to the complaint that IB Studios did have control over, and this is the cards that I mostly ignored in my overview. That's the objective cards. These are the weakest part of the game. So first, the setup. There's restrictions on which cards can go into which round slot. Not that hard, but it's just I find it incredibly dumb that there's no rule or nothing in the rulebook that calls out why this is important, because it 100% matters during the game. There are some objectives that are based around what happens in a single round, and there are others that that players will have to plan for, mostly around building towers and markets. But if players don't understand this dot system on the back of the cards, the players won't know that. So now when I teach the game, I call out which objective cards are going to be based on a single round versus which ones are long-term planning. That's so people can have a better idea of what they may want to peek at, because it's a huge advantage if one player knows the dot system and the others don't. I decided that this was important for players to know after one brave soul decided to try the objective strategy to win the game. They peeked at every objective over the course of the game, but 3 out of 5 of them, they were like, oh, well, I can't do that one. Basically just wasting resources. These objective cards are bad. I think in the future I'm just going to remove the long-term ones and put in ones that are for a single round. I did mention that I don't think there's any one strategy to winning Fractured Sky, and players have different paths they can choose. The objective cards just aren't one of those paths. All right, on to a minor production complaint, and that's the art. And to be honest, not really the art. I think the art is fun, but it's the map. The map is crazy busy. I think it looks really nice and is one of the more beautiful games I put on my table, but man, it just seems to produce a bit of anxiety in people when trying to look at it. Also, the lines for where the building zones are connecting just aren't clear enough. I really wish these stood out more. I do have, last minor issue here that I want to mention before moving on to the Kickstarter. And that's, I find that in almost every game of Fractured Sky that I've played, some players can go into that final round feeling like they've already lost. This can make the final round drag for those players because it doesn't seem to matter. Sometimes this might be true, but I'll admit that in 2 of my games, the player with the fewest starfall moving into the final round ended up with the most starfall or tied for the most starfall after the final round. This is because there are just more starfall in the later rounds than the early rounds, so this game can be swingy. I personally don't find that to be too much of a problem, but some people might not like it. So in summary, I do really enjoy Fractured Sky. Does it help that I didn't pay cash for this game and got it at a GameSwap? I mean, probably. But on the other hand, I didn't pay a boatload of money and possibly avoiding the trap of feeling like I have to like it because I spent so much money on it. But overall, frankly, it's just really hard one to recommend. The retail edition looks fine, but would I like it as much if I didn't have these magnetic airships? I honestly don't know. I'm a shallow gamer and I care about how my games look and feel. I do love these airships and they do 100% enhance the game. I put them in my top 10 fun components list after all. I hate recommending bloated deluxe editions because the more games I buy, the more I realize how much of a waste that is. But for a game you love, I've always been of the opinion that it's your choice to bring it out. I did upgrade my version of Fractured Sky. I've got the metal starfall tokens and the neoprene mat, and I think that provides some proof of how much I enjoy the game. I'm willing to put more money into it. So I'm happy with my bloated, overproduced version of Fractured Sky. I think this is a great game for me, but probably not for everyone. Hopefully I've provided enough info in this review for you to make that decision for yourself. Okay, now on to the Kickstarter. So Fractured Sky Awakening. I haven't played this expansion, so I'm just going to be commenting on the summary video created by IV Studios. This expansion has 4 modules, and I've got some thoughts on them. Oh, and also note that I do have the little mini Rift expansion, but I actually haven't played with it yet. It seems fine. I mean, no major complaints there. We'll find out later. But first up for this new Awakening is going to be the payloads. This adds a new reward for the area majority battle. Basically, if you're in a region and there's a payload available, when you go to claim your reward, you can take the payload instead of the reward. These are just extra discs that you can stack under one of your future airship deployments to modify its value. The discs vary from +2 to +5 power, and they don't contribute to your 10 power limit. And my opinion on this is stupid. I mean, honestly, I'm not sure I can think of a worse idea for this game. So much of this game revolves around players knowing everyone has a 10 power limit. Now you just hand a player a token that completely breaks that part of the game. This will fundamentally alter the player interactions. If payloads had a fixed value, like the skimmers being a fixed +1, then maybe I could see this being interesting. Maybe you sacrifice not taking a starfall or 2 resources for a fixed power boost, then in a later round, use that payload. But because it's variable from +2 to +5, players don't know what you're capable of. Maybe I'm wrong, but this sounds dumb. I'm a fan of adding chaos, but once players can't judge what another player is capable of, it's no longer a bluffing game. Bluffing only works when everyone understands the contours of the game. A random +2 to +5 makes those contours fuzzy, no longer discrete. It would be like playing poker, but one player gets a special card. Everyone knows they have a special card, and everyone knows it's good, but maybe not how good. What would be the point? Just fold that hand. Okay, so that was a strong start. Next up is the flagship module. My thoughts on this one are, meh. Maybe this will be good, kind of like payloads. You're fundamentally altering the airship placement rules. It's giving players asymmetric abilities, which is neat, but I do feel like Fractured Sky is great because of the symmetry between the players. You all have the same options, and you can easily predict what the other players are trying to do. That's why I didn't like payloads. It changes the formula and muddies your predictions. Flagships kind of skirts this issue because flagship abilities aren't hidden. It's just going to take some work to remember what all the flagships do. I can see this one being a good module for people that have played Fractured Sky a few times. Then they'll probably need a game or two to lock in the rules for the flagships. Then you can have a good time with this one. I also like that you draft the flagships each round based on turn order. That's a nice touch. So this one gets a strong, maybe from me. Could be interesting, but I'm still hesitant about screwing with the player symmetry in this kind of game. The next module is the Guardians. Now we're on to something that I am genuinely excited about. Unlike the payloads and the flagships, these aren't screwing with the player's powers. These are screwing with the regions themselves, and I love this idea. These are adding extra incentive or, possibly disincentives towards trying to win certain regions. This forces some more tactical decision making. I also love that these Guardians start in one region on the early reward spot, which I didn't really talk about, but basically when someone is the first to place an airship in a region, then they get a small benefit. Now with the Guardians, that benefit is being able to deploy a Guardian to another region. And oh man, that sounds juicy and chaotic. It kind of makes me think about a small box game from All Played called Vegas Strip. It's a neat little bluffing game where each region, well, casino in this one, has a modifier on it, changing how players interact with or value each casino. The Guardians sound kind of like that, a new piece of the tactical puzzle that players will have to evaluate. So I love this idea and I can't wait for this module. Lastly, is something that I see as less of an expansion and more of a fix: bounties. So bounties are replacing the objectives, and these are going to be face up instead of hidden. The players will be racing to achieve them, and the first to complete one gets a starfall, but everyone else can still complete it for another benefit. These sound like a great replacement for the objectives, and I can't wait to just add these to my game of Fractured Sky. I think it sounds way better, to be honest. So those are my thoughts on this new Kickstarter. Bounties is a fix, Guardians sound like a great addition, flagships might be good for more experienced players, and payloads sound terrible. So yep, I'm backing this expansion and bringing out my version. I think I'm going to do the Super Deluxe version because I have the Deluxe version for the base game, which I kind of think is the better version because, in the Super Deluxe you get the multicolored airships and the multicolored buildings in the base game, and it seems like it's going to make it harder to see the player colors on the map. But I do think the multicolored Super Deluxe Guardians and flagships will look really nice in contrast to the single-colored player components of just the, Deluxe base game. So yeah, I'm about to waste some money. And also, I want to mention that I know nothing about the standalone game Soar, but I'm tossing that in as well. I like Chris George from Room and Board, and he has a positive quote about it. So that's good enough for me. That's going to do it for today. So in summary, I really enjoy playing Fractured Sky, and I'm excited about 2.5 of the 4 modules in the new expansion. So thanks for watching. Thanks for spending your time with me. I always appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next time.